Let's start from the beginning, I guess. How did you get involved with the film?
The casting director was familiar with my work, and she reached out to me when they were needing to cast Josephine. It was a fast and furious process because they needed to cast her immediately, and she sent me the material, and I just said, yes, count me in, this looks amazing. And I wasn't wrong. It's turned out to be really just an incredibly satisfying experience. I love the film. I could not love the character more. Love all of the cast. The director was amazing. The producers have been incredible. It's just, yeah, it was a yes. Yes.
So what were kind of your first thoughts when you looked at the script and about your character that kind of, you said it was really amazing from the start. So what was it about her that really pulled you in and you said, I got to do this?
Well, they sent me the description of the character, and even before I read the script, I was like, oh, if this is legit, if this description is accurate, I am so in. And the description is so short. It's just Coco Chanel meets Elizabeth Bathory, which essentially means, mass murderer in a fierce pair of heels. And I thought, yeah, I'm in. That sounds absolutely extraordinary. So yeah, that's all that I needed to realize that, not only was it something I wanted to play, but I just knew it was the kind of thing that I could bring some good energy to. So I was excited about it.
So this was more kind of a newer part for you feel?
Well, I mean, I got my start playing a mass murderer, so it's kind of familiar territory. My first big break was on Xena Warrior Princess, where I played essentially a warlord. I was the most fearsome warrior who was just known for pillaging villages and mass murdering people. So I guess, who knew that was in my wheelhouse, but I guess it is. And I certainly have a love of fashion and costume. So yeah, it was, this is what it really is. In the end, when you describe a character that way, what it means is that they are absolutely full of freedom. And that means that as an actor making choices, you kind of can't go wrong, because a character like that has full permission. They can do what they want, say what they want, wear what they want, act how they want. They just, can do pretty much anything. And that is so freeing from our regular lives. It just makes it so fun to play. So yeah, I just knew I was going to have a good time.
Awesome. So most people haven't seen the movie yet. So can you kind of introduce your character and kind of tell everybody kind of what her part in this story is?
Of course. So Josephine Tully is the agent of DJ Dreamcatcher. The movie takes place at a big music festival where DJ Dreamcatcher is headlining. And as the agent, I am there to try to facilitate everything he needs to make it an incredibly successful weekend. And for Josephine, what that means is that anything that gets in her way, she gets rid of. She pays them off. She throws them out. She, throws them downstairs perhaps if she wants to. She's that sort of agent where the only thing she cares about is protecting her client and her assets. So she's there to make some money and make him successful and let it lead to the next step in her career. And she has no patience for any crap that gets in her way. And, so she just deals with it accordingly.
Do you kind of feel that she was out more, she's got an interesting character. She can, I actually went back and watched it a second time to kind of catch everything. Do you feel that her character ended up being more for herself or more for her client or in between or that's part of the secret of the story here?
Well, I think that Josephine, she's for her client, but the overarching thing is that the better job she does for her clients, the more beneficial it is for herself. So it's always kind of self-serving no matter what she's doing. But I think for Josephine also, it's that she's used to being able, she has fought her way through this business. She has, done what she needed to do to reach this level of success. And she is watching as these circumstances show up that are not something that are easily fixable, not something she knows what to do. It's just it's a situation that's uncomfortable for her in a different way than it is for everyone else, just because she's used to being in control of everything. So it's challenging her in this new way. what you find out about her is everything is better and everything is worse than you think it is. Josephine does not show vulnerability, but there are moments in this piece where, she is forced into circumstances where she's inevitably vulnerable, and she hates that. And, you see these moments where she's a better human being than you thought she was capable of being, and these moments when she is worse than you thought any person was capable of being. So she definitely has both sides to her.
I definitely thought that was the most interesting thing about her character, is that you may want to hate her, but then there are moments you may want to like her. So you're really not sure what to do with her until you see everything play out.
Oh, so true, so true.
And one of the reasons people may not like her is she kind of has to be harsh on some of the people, or she may come off harsh. Was that kind of hard for you to do, or that was easy, or was that fun to kind of?
God, that was so fun, so fun. And while this is how I feel about Josephine. In a million years, I wouldn't hang out with her in real life. She's horrible. But watching her be horrible is so freaking fun. Getting to say those lines where all that you're doing is ripping someone down to their studs, so that you're like, they come in there as a full human being and they leave as, just barely a skeleton. In her presence, she just takes away any self-worth that they have with just a sentence or two that's incredibly biting and incredibly smart and sees them down to their soul. Like whatever their greatest humiliation, their greatest fear is, she just says it right to their face so that they'll go away. And that is, of course, horrible, but also amazing. So it's both.
So were those maybe some of the more challenging scenes, or what was the most challenging scene for you?
I guess the most challenging for me, the finale scene, where the majority of the cast was involved, and there's all of the reveals of, the truth of the situation. And that was a complicated scene just because the weather was horrible. There were all sorts of pieces we needed to happen that just weren't quite happening smoothly and it's really the only experience we had of that. So it was all of a sudden, all of us having to figure out how to make it work. And what I love is that we definitely did. We all figured out what we needed, but it was sort of our biggest scene because everybody was in it. Plus it involved, I don't know how much to say because I don't want to do spoilers, but there's just a lot of pieces that were part of this scene. And so it was a bigger deal, a bigger challenge than any of the other pieces had been. So that doesn't mean that it was any less fun or any less thrilling, but the actual mechanics of getting that scene finished were more challenging than I think any of the others.
And how was it working with the cast? How quickly do you think everybody kind of came together? You had a decently large cast, so how did it come together, and how smooth did it kind of go?
One of the reasons that this movie works is because the casting is so perfect. Every character in this movie is fully realized by the actors that they chose to play them. Nobody was having to fight to try to make their role believable. You believe them all because the casting, in my opinion, was just really, really well done. So there was a seamlessness to the work because everybody just sort of fully embodied who their characters were, which is not to say, there's not incredible acting involved. There definitely was, because these are not people the cast is very different in real life than they are on screen. And yet the way that the casting happened allowed for exactly the right people to end up in these roles so that it just fully brings it to life. And you don't think that there's false moments of, oh, I don't believe that person is suffering in this way or, didn't have this experience. I personally really believed it. So I just think the casting was really, really beautifully done.
Oh, yes. Everybody did a terrific job, and you feel that everybody was comfortable. It looked like everybody was comfortable with what they were doing and how they came off. Is it a little more challenging, or how challenging is it for maybe the actors when there's some twists and turns and you're kind of hiding that, and then you know what, there are certain characters that come out a different way. So is it challenging to hide that as you shoot, or you just don't think about it and you're just within whatever scene you're shooting?
Well, I think, really that all goes back to Jacob Johnston, the director. We as actors, our job is to not foreshadow. We don't want to be, unintentionally spoiling what's about to be revealed for the audience. But nonetheless, there's those moments where if you know the information in advance, sometimes you just sort of can't help but let that bleed through. But that's the beauty of having a really, cognizant director who's really in it with you and so familiar with the material because he also wrote it. So he knew, he had a very good temperature gauge of were we staying where we needed to be, or did he need to fine tune some moments to make sure that the audience wasn't being told something ahead of time, even if it was incredibly subtly and, but just that we were all really staying aware of what moment in the story we were in at that time. So I would say, while the actors, of course, all take some responsibility for it, I really think that sort of thing lands on the shoulder of the director, who has the broader vision and can see, where are the moments when he's trying to sort of lead the audience astray versus where are the moments where, he needs to make sure there's absolute clarity, even if the clarity is false clarity. He just knows exactly the emotional journey he's trying to bring the audience through.
And kind of speaking about him, did he kind of give you guys a little freedom, or did you guys kind of have to really stick to the script and what you said, especially your character and being so harsh in the way it was? Did you have some freedom there, or did you?
Well, I can't speak for the rest of the cast. I'm not sure what their experience was, but he and I loved Josephine so much. And, I even got to do impromptu lines that I would come up with some scathing thing for somebody, and if he liked it, it would stay in the movie. So, that sort of freedom is just incredibly thrilling. So just to have us see the character the same way, and we both just wanted her to be, like a knife, just cutting people down, just, with absolute precision. So if either of us had ideas, and I feel this way about talent in general. I just think the more talented people are, the more open to collaboration they are. And that certainly speaks volumes with Jacob. I think he's phenomenally talented. And one of the ways that shows itself is just in his willingness to, be open to suggestions and ideas and, playing around with things. So instead of it being absolute gospel, he's willing to see if we can make it even better than, it originally started as. And that, I think, is it's just such an extraordinary piece of the pie that makes someone a trustworthy collaborator, someone that can connect with you on those levels too.
And just curious, have you seen the full film, the final version yet?
Well, yes and no. I saw the I guess I don't know the answer to that question. I saw the full film about a year ago, and at that time, that was the finished version. But I don't know what may have happened in the last year as it's, gone through its final post-production pieces. And, so who knows? Maybe it'll be a shock for me, too. Maybe there will be some great surprises for myself when I watch it again on the 5th.
And with what you saw, what was your kind of thoughts on it overall?
I just thought it was such gorgeous eye candy. It was so delicious to watch. I just thought the music is yummy, the visuals are amazing, the dialogue is fun. Just everything about it was like, ooh, yes, that too. I just really dug it. So yeah, I'm definitely a fan.
And it seems like everybody, like you said, kind of got along and had a good time in filming this. Do you have any maybe funny or interesting stories from behind the scenes, maybe in between shooting that you can share, or something that stood out?
Oh gosh, I should have stories like this at the ready because there were so many yummy moments. I think all that I can say really is just every day was such a joy. I don't have a single story of someone being a nightmare or there being problems. I have these great stories of, the truth is the house house kind of becomes its own character. But the house, because it was this beautiful, fancy, real house, it was hilarious how it almost was like a pet for us. Like, we were all having to take such good care of this house because we didn't want to damage it. And so, there was just this constant level of, making sure that you're wearing booties in the house and that you're not spilling anything, and that just more so than on any set I think I've ever been on, the house was like the grandmother that we were all taking care of while we were also making this movie. So I definitely have endless moments of all of us trying to be like, no, don't set that there. Like, that sort of thing. Just those moments.
Which I'm sure was kind of hard, especially shooting like a party scene.
Oh, that was very, very tricky. And the house, if I remember correctly, it had like some sort of, it had some special kind of flooring. But the thing that's in my mind right now is, because I wanted to say it was like polished cement, but it was even fancier than that. But what I remember specifically is just that there was a challenge with the party scenes, because yes, there were so many shoes that of course have to be there when you're filming, but also just because the shoes were so loud. So we had to do all of these creative things to try to figure out how to, make sure these scenes were usable, because the type of flooring just meant that, practically even barefoot, you were still making noise when you walked. But anyway, it worked beautifully in the end. And I actually think that all of us having that heightened awareness constantly of our environment made us even more accessible to it in the story. Like, we just all constantly had the house on our minds as we were filming, and the house played such a prominent role in the final product that I actually think it sort of added this layer to it of just all of us being sort of threatened by the house in a way.
Absolutely. Turned a beautiful house into a creepy situation.
Yes. There definitely were those moments when you were like, oh, don't let me be the one to damage something,
All right. I guess we'll kind of finish it off with and I think you've done a great job of kind of saying it overall, but I guess one final chance here to kind of promote the movie and let everybody know why they should watch it and what they should expect from it as it's coming out soon.
Well, I'm going to say expect the unexpected, because I think most people, when they see a sort of slasher film being advertised, they think they know exactly what they're going to get. And the exciting thing about Dreamcatcher is that on one hand, you get all the pieces that you're hoping for, but on the other hand, I just think it's so much more layered than any ad campaign can really accurately capture, because there's just so many pieces to it. Every one of the characters is dealing with a bigger drama. They show up in the story dealing with something, and then have the events of the music festival and this serial killer person after them. That is on top of what is already happening in their lives. So the idea that it's both things, or it's either thing that you want it to be. You can watch it if you just want escapism and want to hear the great music and see the sexy visuals, or you can watch it if you actually are looking to get into something that has more story, more meat on its bones. So it's both.
Awesome. That's a great way to put it, because it definitely a lot to it, and definitely when I watched it, by the time it came to the end, I was like, okay, there's a little bit more there than I thought was going to happen.
Nice.
But I thank you for your time, and thank you for your answers, and I'm glad that you had such a great time. It's great when people come on and very enthusiastic about the film.
Oh yes, 3 cheers. Well, thank you so much for your time and attention.
How did you get involved with the film?
So I was fortunate enough to I went through the audition process. Quite funny, I auditioned for a different character who got booked through, Zach was booked for that role, ended up getting booked for it, which I see it now, I'm like, oh, I wasn't fit right for that. But on the day of auditioning, they gave me a script, a scene, and it was for Dylan, and they're like, here's the DJ Dreamcatcher. I'm like, oh, I'm excited about this. And basically auditioned for that. They called me that night and offered me the role, and I pretty much just said yes straight away. So I was, super excited to dig into that and find out who Dylan was and to create, layers and everything, which I did, and I was super excited to do that.
And what were some of your first thoughts when you started reading through the script and your character?
Hot mess. Dylan was just at a stage where he was a hot mess. He's a very charismatic guy. He's kind of like a stage guy as well. He knows when to put it on, so to speak, and he knows when he's by himself and he can be himself. And he's troubled. He's got a very troubled background of what I created for him. And it was, I went to my coach and we created all this backstory for him of how he got to where he is now, how he started, what made him take the shift, and what made him do the things that he was about to do in the film. Which for me, doing that, I've never really done that before. Well, I have, but not to a certain extent of depth like Dreamcatcher. So for me, it was super exciting to do that and figure out who Dylan really was.
And I know this is a new film, so not many people know. Can you just kind of briefly, introduce your character a little bit and tell them, overall what happens to him or his role in this movie?
Yeah, so Dylan is he's DJ Dreamcatcher. He's a DJ, and basically he got launched into stardom for his music. And I created the backstory of him being very similar to Avicii. So it's kind of like an Avicii story. And he at the very beginning he was passionate about creating music and his art. But then as stardom happened and how fame got to him, and he hired like managers, publicists, and everything. They made it more about the business than the art, which Dylan didn't like and had to make a change.
Awesome. And you yourself, since you kind of created that background and story for him, do you yourself have any interest in DJing or DJed before, or that was just you just liked him and threw him into the story?
Me and my best friend, when I was growing up, being like 17 or 18, we used to have fun, and we had this like DJ, kind of virtual DJ thing on our computers, and we used to mix in, because I used to listen to a lot of EDM when I was growing up, and out partying and clubs and everything, and we used to mix different songs together, making us feel like a DJ. But cut forward 10 years or so shooting the film, I had a grand idea of maybe I should produce a track so I can play it when we're doing the big scenes of the party and stuff. Little did I know how difficult it actually was to create a song, an EDM song, or just a song in general. And I quickly scraped that one because it wasn't going to be an easy thing to do. It would have been like a month process to do, which I didn't have. But yeah, I love the EDM growing up, so I could connect on that level with Dylan.
Okay, yeah, I think we all kind of try to play DJ at one point or another, whether it doesn't usually...
Exactly.
Yeah, and it doesn't usually turn out well for most of us.
No, if it does, then you've got something and you follow that.
Exactly. One of the things that's unique about your character or your DJ is he gets to wear a mask when he's DJing and so forth. Did you get to put on the mask a lot, or what was it like wearing it?
Yeah, so, similar to like a marshmallow. Sometimes his thought was, if I wear a mask, no one knows who I am. So it's all about the music. That was a big thing for Dylan, that it was all about the music, not about who it was behind the music. So that's why he wore the mask. And I remember the first time I wore the mask was when I'm up on stage DJing to all the people down below in the warehouse. And it's funny, the mask, there was only two made through Marvel, which Marvel alone is like, that's awesome. And the interesting thing about the masks, the eyes are interchangeable. So they had one with a little pinhole, they had one which was mesh, and then they had another one was blacked out. And I remember, because of shooting reasons, I had to wear the blacked out ones. So I was kind of on stage wearing a mask, thinking I'm like awesome, but not being able to see anything which was such an interesting element shooting that whole sequence, because in reality, I couldn't see anything.
So it was a interesting challenge to have that mask on then.
Exactly, very interesting element. And I remember later on down in the film, I did wear the mask again with the little pinholes. It's still hard to see, but at least I could see something. And it's kind of like, I don't know, how could I say it? Like Batman, you put on a mask, put on the cape, you feel like Batman. So I had that sort of element where I could put on a mask and I can jump into DJ Dreamcatcher Dylan and really absorb that.
And speaking of challenges, I mean, was wearing the mask your biggest challenge, or was there a scene that was particularly challenging for you?
I think there was two sort of challenges. Like, overall for me, for a challenger, like a personal challenger goal, was trying to bring Dylan to life and the character I built and show the audience justice of what I have created, and hopefully they understand what I've created for him to life. And then there was another challenge where a particular scene, it was quite long, it was like 7, 8 pages, and I had a lot of dialogue in it, and I remember being really anxious and nervous about just like doing a good job, which I mean I shouldn't be worried about, but I'm just like, I want to do really well. And it's probably because of Jacob, who's the writer-director, he got me out of my nerves and out of my own head and let me just explore and just let go. And, I think we created a really, really good scene towards the end of the movie.
Yeah, I was going to ask about how your experience was working under him, and did he give you a lot of freedom? Did you kind of stick to the script, or just your overall thoughts on working with him?
Yeah, I would definitely work with Jacob again. I think he was amazing, one of the best directors I've worked with to date. And, him allowing, we had a little bit of freedom to go off script and this and that, only if it supported what the thought and the feeling was in the scene. But, if we went off somewhere else, he wouldn't want that. And you have that kind of respect from actor to director anyway. And, he pushed me more than I thought he would have, which I personally loved. And it helped me, I remember it helped me as an actor to really, learn to push myself rather than needing other people to push me. But sometimes it's always good to get permission from the director and see how far you can really push the envelope.
And how about the cast? How quickly did you had a pretty good sized cast. How quickly did you guys kind of feel that you got together and really bonded and really got the scenes rolling?
Yeah, so we met up for a table read, so we kind of had a little meet and greet quite quickly there. I bonded with Niki, who played Pierce in the movie, who was quite kind of like a co-star to Dylan in a sense, even though it was an ensemble cast of 8 people. But I remember it was like the second day of shooting. It was like raining, and we had this big Winnebago. And for lunch, which we were kind of having lunch at like midnight, 1 a.m. because we shot through the night. I remember, we all went in there and had lunch together, and we were playing music, we were dancing, we were laughing, we were having fun. So I reckon like that second day of doing that just freed everyone up, and we really bonded just that second day, and then, the rest of the shoot was just a dream.
Yeah, I spoke with Adrienne, and she said you guys seemed to come together real quick and had a lot of fun, yeah. And it was really easy.
I love her. She was so fun to work with. Josephine and Dylan, really, there's some really, really great scenes between her, and Adrienne really brought that character to life.
One of the things I spoke to her about was her character comes off very harsh to some of the other characters, and she even has a moment or two with you. What was it like kind of being on the receiving end of her character's harshness?
Scary. I wanted to run away, but I think, she's a powerful woman, and she plays it really, really well. And to be on the receiving end of that, it's very intimidating. But she really embodies the character, and then putting putting that to work and actually bringing that to life was another thing, and I think she did exceptionally well. And I remember I'm pretty sure she got hired the day before her first day, and her first day she had like 3 pages, like a monologue, 3-page monologue, and I remember her telling me like halfway into the shoot about that story, and I just thought she crushed it, and then each day she was just getting better and better, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. And then our scenes together, I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. And then, cut would hear cut from Jacob. I'm like, oh my God, that was so awesome. Like, thank you so much. And then she'd say the same thing back to me. And, it was really cool to work with her.
Awesome. Yeah, she was very thrilled about the whole process and everything. So it was awesome getting to get that feel from her, talking with her.
Absolutely.
I'm kind of curious that there's a lot of twists and turns the further the story gets on, and of course at the end. Did you kind of feel any pressure in hiding that or the twists and turns that are coming in your character as you're shooting, or did you kind of leave that all up to Jacob to handle?
No, I mean, it's a collaborative work, so I mean, Jacob knows what he wants, which is a really good thing, and then I've got my own ideas, but you've got to remember that we don't shoot in sequence, so sometimes, we do rely on the director, aka Jacob, to remind us where we are and like how much he wants to show. Because I remember doing a scene and I think I revealed a little bit too much. And he goes, let's just bring that back a little bit. It's too early in the movie to reveal something like that little clue that's, you want to make it a little bit more subtle rather than obvious. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it completely does. Yeah, I'm just always curious about that process, especially when you have a big reveal at the end and then so forth. It's piecing that together from an acting standpoint. I mean, from the director, he knows what he's doing, but from an acting standpoint, you don't want to give it away.
No, of course not. And we kind of just get guided. Like we can, like I said, like I did a little too much. Like he's like, pull it back, or in the switch of that, like I do it too subtly. It's like, let's just amp that up just a little bit, and then we amp that up just a little bit, just so it's enough for the audience to see it. Because we can act something, but the way it looks on camera can be 2 different things. So I might be thinking I'm doing it a lot, but I'm not doing it that much, like revealing that much through the camera. So it's trying to find a balance and relying and trusting on Jacob to give us that information, whether to bring it back a little bit or turn it up a little bit.
And curiosity, have you seen the complete film yet or not yet?
I have. I saw it a year and a bit ago, but it was only 70% done. So I have not seen it fully done because there's still colouring to go. So I'm very excited to watch it on the screen with a bunch of friends. We're going to do a premiere and kind of make it special, have a drink, and really enjoy the movie fully completed for the first time.
Awesome. It was really, really good film, and I really enjoyed the twist at the end. That really, put the punctuation on everything. With that said, I'm going to wrap it up and give you a chance to kind of promote the film and tell fans, what they can expect and why they should come out and watch this movie as it premieres soon.
Absolutely. So it comes out March 5th, which is next Friday in America. And it also comes out Australia, UK a couple weeks after that. You can find it on iTunes, cable, and then eventually I guess it will go on Amazon. You're a slasher fan. If you're not a slasher fan, you can still watch it with your family. It's still a really great watch. Keeps you on the edge of your seat pretty much the whole entire film. And, you might pick who it is, but I guarantee you're wrong. So... That's till the end.
even in the extra credits.
Yeah, even the extra credits. Keep watching.
Well, I thank you very much, and like I said, I very much enjoyed the film, and
thank you so much. That's very kind.
And I hope you enjoyed all your work when you finally get to see it on the big screen.
Amazing, man. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
How happy are you that the movie's finally going to be released here?
Exponentially. I am. I'm stoked. I'm just
share it. I think anybody, who makes a movie, the whole goal is like you're not making it for yourself. You're really making it to share with an audience and let it live in its own whatever life it's going to live will be through them. So I'm very, very excited and grateful that we're at this point where it's finally coming out.
So it's almost been two years, you said?
Well, yeah, we shot February of 2019, wow. And then we finished the movie. We premiered at EFM in February of 2020, and then obviously the pandemic hit, and it threw everything. Obviously, I'm sure you've seen, like, Hollywood was in disarray, and so for months it was kind of like companies, distribution companies figuring out how they were going to evolve and what content they were going to be buying, or whether they'd be buying content or paying their employees. And so it was a tough, for everybody, no matter what industry you're in. Obviously 2020 was a tough year. So it sat for a bit, and working with our sales agency, we got quite a few international sales, and then we started getting the domestic offers, and when Samuel Goldwyn came in, it was like I was just so ecstatic because they're such an esteemed company who are not known for doing genre films. They're doing stuff like Squid and the Whale and this, Another Round, which is up for an Oscar, and like here's this genre movie. So it was really invigorating to partner with a company like that.
So the patience paid off.
100%. Yeah, it just goes to show you when many windows are closed, there's a door to the basement somewhere.
Hey, things happen for a reason, they say.
It's true. I believe it.
So let's go back to the beginning. Kind of talk about a little bit of how this idea came together, where you kind of put this all together in the script.
Yeah, so I've known Brandon and Crystal, who were the exec producers, brother and sister, for about 5.5, 6 years, and we had connected at a barbecue about our love for genre movies. They were coming off of producing this Wes Craven film, and that kind of obviously sparked the conversation about ensemble horror and ensemble thrillers, and we connected over that. And then flash forward to many years later, I got a call from them, and they were like, "Hey, so we have some financing. We want to go make a movie. We'd love to do kind of a love letter to the '90s, but with a modern twist." Excuse me. We want it to be an ensemble, and we'd love for it to live in the world somewhere of music in some capacity. We'd love to add that as an element, and the rest of it was to my own devices of wherever I wanted to take the story. So it was rare occasion where, one, somebody calls you and says they have the money to make a movie, and secondarily, to really let you play in a world with a lot of different possibility. So yeah, it was kind of, that was the setup, and then EDM made the most sense to me in terms of where I could take the music side, because it gave us a centralized figurehead that didn't require a lot of backstory, where it was like, how do you create your iconic, killer? How do you create that iconography without having to go, here's the backstory of Freddy Krueger, here's the backstory of Jason Voorhees, or, I have to spend 15 or 20 minutes explaining why this person is wearing a mask, or why whoever puts on the mask is wearing that specific mask. And you've got these characters like Deadmau5 and Marshmallow and Daft Punk, R.I.P. but those, these people that we buy that wear masks, and it's not weird, So it was it made a lot of sense to me, and it solved a lot of problems in terms of having to spend the time fabricating why it was that, and I could focus more on who are the characters, what's driving them, how are they kind of psychologically complex or connected, and then focus more on that side of things, which I found to be very exciting and fulfilling.
It seemed, I was reading your director's statement, and it seemed like you wanted to kind of make this a little more than just a typical slasher film. Why was that kind of important to you?
I think it's really what you have to do. Like I'm sure you see a lot of genre movies. It's a movie. It's a genre that is on one side extremely relatable, because you can pack so many different kinds of themes and social commentary and things into it in a meaningful way while still entertaining. But secondarily, there's a lot there are a lot of genre films out there, and because they're so marketable or they're so easy to execute or whatever, like there's a lot of different reasons. But you really have to find a way to lean into things that people love about the genre, but then find a way to also subvert that expectation. You know, we're seeing it in the resurgence of slashers with things like what Christopher Landon did with Happy Death Day, or what Adam Robitel did with Escape Room, what Koss is doing with Candyman. Like, it's really about finding ways to take the genre, things we love about the genre, but then find a new angle or a different lens or perspective to see it through. So, you know, it was really important for me as a storyteller to also be able to execute, like, I want to make, you know, this John Hughes-esque ensemble that we care about, and also lean into the things I love about movies like Scream or Night of the Hunter, Psycho, things like that, where character development really, really, really matters.
So you were well versed in your horror and your slasher going into this. You're a fan heading into this.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think it's so weird because when I was a kid, I just hated horror movies. I saw The Shining, like, inadvertently. My family was watching it, and I was like in the 4th grade, and I kind of was like tangentially watching it, but like also in the kitchen cooking because I was terrified. But there, you know, something happened when I got into like late middle school, early high school, and I started watching more, Italian horror. I started watching more like 60s and 70s horror, and really, and then obviously the 80s, where we had so much fun and camp, and like watching the genre evolve and seeing the trends in which, the mid 2000s were about reinventing the 80s, and now we're kind of getting into a more progressive place. And I don't know, I think it's just such a fascinating genre to be in, because it can take so many different forms, and that's really exciting.
Definitely. One of the things that I always like to ask, this movie obviously has a big twist, and we're not going to give it away or anything like that, but I'm always curious to know, at what point did you know your ending? Did you know it right when you wrote the script, or did it kind of develop later on, or maybe during filming? At what point did you kind of know this is the big twist and how I want this movie to end?
It was before I finished the script. I mean, it was after I figured out what the backdrop, once I figured out the EDM, I knew what I wanted the twist to be, because I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I knew how I say this without giving away anything. But like, I knew the mechanics of what the twist was going to be and how it would function within the story, which I think you have to know, because with something like the twist that it is, you have to pepper it in so it doesn't feel like it's out of left field when it happens, because the best twists are the ones where it's like kind of obvious, but it's also like you don't see it coming, but then when it does happen, you're like, I feel like maybe I knew that this was coming, and then when you rewatch the movie, you see all of the things that kind of like slap you in the face, saying like the twist is going to be this, or like at least related to this, and so that was a lot of fun to find small moments to bake in and set that up a bit.
Yeah, I spoke with Adrienne and Travis, and I kind of asked them from an actor's standpoint what it was like kind of doing their roles and knowing a twist was coming. And, obviously, the ultimate challenge there is for you to kind of hide that. So how big of a challenge did that turn out for you to hide, what was going on, but still sprinkle those hints in that you just mentioned?
It's tough, because you also have to convince, part of the genre is you have to have so many different red herrings, right? So you have to let the actors live in the character that has been created and be consistent with that, but also like lean in certain directions that might feel maybe a teensy bit obscure, because we need to have a little bit of a red herring vibe. So it was a balance between all of the stuff we focused on with the character development, but also making it like, well, there's lingos of, well, this person could be the bad guy, or the theory could be this, or this. And I think that's part of the fun, is like, when you have a movie like this, it could be so many different things, because we're playing in a reality that is sort of here, but also not at all. There's an aspirational level to it, but there's also like a very grounded authenticity to it, so that the twists real. They could be, dreamlike, whatever it is. I think there's a lot of fun to dabble in that world.
And what would you say your biggest challenge was overall putting this together?
I would say time, to be perfectly honest. I think you always run into, it wasn't even budget stuff, because when you're on an indie budget, you have to be creative, and you get to find so many different solutions to problems that arise throughout production, because you don't have the time to kind of sit and figure things out. For instance, when we were moving toward the finale in the third act, one of the death scenes was actually by the pool, and it was supposed to be this big chase and whatever, and of course the day we're scheduled to shoot that, it's pouring down rain. Like, the one day in Los Angeles rains. And so I had to rewrite that scene on the day, change quite a bit of things. But what happened because of that was it made us move the finale that was originally inside the house outside, because when we were shooting the finale the next day, it was not raining. And I loved that happened, because that changed the dynamic of the finale in a really beautiful, quiet way. So, there's these challenges that come up with time, and you kind of just work around them and find creative solutions that are still, that make sense to the film, hoping that never to have to cut corners when it comes to narrative choices.